call to order. So the first item of business is if there's any public comment on things other than those on the agenda.
Yeah, I have a public comment. You'll be happy to know that at the Transportation Commission, they had a proposal to fund shuttles, and it had a $500,000 a year ceiling and a maximum of $2 million. And I was able to lobby Rebecca and Lori Capitelli, so they removed the ceiling. So I think we're going to be able to get $1 million a year probably. And so that's looking good. And the other thing is, just so you know, the reason that the PBID wasn't challenged was because we thought there was a 90-day window to challenge, and there was only a 30-day window to challenge, so we missed the deadline. I mean, I know I could kill myself for that, but that's what happened. And the other thing is, I requested copies of the vote from City Hall, and it's not forthcoming. They do not have a list of who voted for what, which I find outrageous. So Karen gave me copies of all the ballots, but I really think it's unacceptable that the city doesn't have a tally of votes. And so it looks like I'm going to end up counting all the ballots. And that's not really what I want to do, but you know, I showed them from the landscape and lighting district what the property owner list looks like, because I got that when I was on the city council, and they say they don't have a copy of it. I guess they had a vendor count the ballots, but I guess, I don't know if I can contact the vendor or not. They should have a list of the votes. I mean, it's outrageous. So anyway, that's the latest. Thanks.
Actually, I do have one thing that came up, and that is there's been a lot of stuff happening about people finding out about the lien on their property connected to the PBID. And I think it would be good if the city could just let people know what's going on and what this is all about, because there are a lot of people that are absolutely panicked. And it's like, we need to recall the city council members. It's like, probably not.
Right.
Like,
so they're just finding out about the assessment.
Yeah. And they're finding out some, randomly. It's like, oh, I just discovered that I can go into this website and find out about my property taxes, and it's like, oh, I found out that there's a lien against there. It's like, what? And then other people, kind of the same week, I got like from 4 different places. It's like, did you know about this, or do you know about this? So,
okay.
So if we can just.
I didn't know it was a lien. I thought it was just an assessment on the property.
No. It's like, check it out, because it's a lien. I don't understand the terms hard lien versus other liens, but there is a lien that is on your property, and I think it's, talking with Chris Owens, I think this is standard practice kind of thing, but at the same time, it's like people are panicked, and we should just really kind of inform people that this probably isn't an issue, may not impact if you're trying to refinance your house and the lender sees a lien on the property.
Well, before it's filed, shouldn't the city just send them a last opportunity to pay?
It's not a, I think this is a form of tax.
Yeah.
And your tax bill equates to a lien, and it's a lien like if you don't pay, it just is to.
I think that's what it is.
It's not like an evidence of delinquent payment until it's delinquent. So, if you look at a title report, the taxes will always show as a lien, and so this is a form of taxes. But I think your point is well made. The city probably could communicate more on this issue than they are.
Just communicate what it is.
Right.
Really.
So, since we have new members, maybe we should just introduce ourselves. Probably should have done that before we did this, but.
So actually, Jen Nettles is our new representative from Bay Street. She's replaced Alice Rose, who was our former director for, 5 years. And she's a new general manager of the Bay Street location.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah.
Welcome.
I'm Colin Osborne, I represent Novartis.
I'm Karen Boggs, and I'm here with Ronnie from the TMA.
Yeah. And Ronnie Hattrap, Grave Owen, representing the TMA.
And I'm Mary Grimbergs with Ronnie.
There you go.
Okay.
Karen actually is new to our team here, the TMA team. She's going to be taking over, kind of delving in more into the operations administration, kind of looking into how the operation is running and performance, and kind of refining our performance reporting and, you know, getting more involved with the technologies available in tracking, you know, shuttle performance, so.
And I'm Jeff Sears of Wareham Development. I'm currently the president of the board, which is a title that doesn't bestow much. I will share that the city has named a new person to act as their liaison with this group, and whose name is escaping me.
Cindy Montero.
Yeah, Cindy Montero, who's an assistant city manager.
Right.
Yeah, so I was hoping she might appear here. But what I do know is, you know, the PBID had, for all sorts of reasons, sort of a two-phase process, the second phase of which still needs to occur, which is a formal revision to governance. And I know that it's her task to try to form that and get it approved sooner rather than later. I was hoping she could report on what that actually meant. I know you don't know yet.
I actually talked to Carolyn Lair last night.
Okay.
She did call me, and they had just had a meeting with their attorney and the team. It looks like what they're going to do is implement a temporary authorization for moving forward in terms of kind of our shuttle funding agreement with the city. We currently have one that expires in December of 16. However, with the new PBID, we need to kind of refine some of the language in there to, you know, adhere to the new standards of the PBID. This is going to be a temporary fix until the new shuttle funding agreement is developed, and that will include the governance, and that is estimated to take about 6 to 8 months, which is a lot longer than we thought it was going to. So for the near term, we'll have a temporary fix. Our governance will remain as is until we know what it's going to be in the future. But so for the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to operate according to our bylaws.
What was your initial expectation of
Before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Just before, I mean, my concern was that the members, people who are going to now be paying, won't have representation on the board.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's aware of that, you know, issue.
We may individually or as a board want to express comment on that. This is the first time hearing. I was hoping I was hoping we'd get information today. That wasn't the information I was expecting. So I'm going to suspend disbelief until they tell us why it should take that long.
Right.
But I don't view that as, I don't know why it would be necessary, but I think the sooner that can happen, the better, because it is a different set of people being assessed, and that should be resolved so you can make, you know, get down to business and not worry about that stuff. That's my thought. So.
There is an opportunity that we could potentially resolve the governance issue before. There's a lot of other strings attached with the shuttle funding agreement, and that's what they're also estimating is going to take a lot more time to figure out. So perhaps we can encourage maybe a resolution to the governance structure itself so that we can proceed with the bylaw revision, so we can update our board of directors, and then the shuttle funding agreement could follow thereafter.
Yeah, and I'll remind all of us that our governance is up to us, but the city has sort of a, you know, not a line item veto, but an overall veto. Like, if you want us to enter into an agreement to give you the PBID funds, we have to be comfortable that your governance is reasonable.
Right.
It's really up to us with some sort of external reasonableness test, as opposed to the opposite, right? It's up to them and us to object to. So I'm hoping we can work closely and in partnership and faster than 6 to 8 months to get that done. And if anyone has any thoughts different, please let me know. But I think Ronnie and or I or both are going to go express the interest of the board to move that faster unless there's any objection.
Just to raise a point, there are PBIDs that have been challenged based on governance structure of equity, and so that's probably what they're looking at, because there are a lot of cases where people that have paid the PBID have challenged the governance structure, so that's possibly what they're looking at.
Well, we don't know what they're looking at. That's one of the issues. They need to tell us how it's going to work, what they suggest. Okay. Any other public comment? I'm going to assume not.
Well, I'll just
Okay.
say that now that I've heard this, because I shared with you that I had been told that there probably was going to be resolved in the next month or two, but it sounds like that's not happening. I will at least send an email to Cindy and Carolyn and report, and the next time I go to a city council, I'll say something.
Again, if we wanted to change our governance, we could do it, independent of their timing.
Right.
So we'll get some more information and try to share it with the board.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we just voted in right today.
I know.
Who's here?
We have to have a membership vote. We have to send a membership request out. I know. I like how you.
I think not. We have to put issues on public, you know.
We have to have.
We have rules too,
Yeah.
but they aren't necessarily other people's rules, you know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea though, Jeff, considering the, the issues we're having with filling the board and, increasing participation, to maybe consider if they're not willing to share with us their proposed governance, that we consider something before the end of the year.
Well, we shared ours, right? We had ideas. I mean, we
Right.
didn't formally adopt anything, but we talked about it a fair amount. And we shared it with them in advance. And we heard publicly and some of us privately that there was reasonable, that wasn't out of, 100% diametrically opposed to general thinking, but we need to go through the process. So let us get information, we'll share it with you. We're going to do everything we can to try to get this resolved. It's not good for us. I mean, I think one of the reasons a couple people aren't here is if we adhered to the recommendations we made, some people, I don't think anyone here at the table, but some people will drop off. And that, if I were dropping off, I might not come in the gap,
Right.
So you want to know who it is and get those people to invest into the team, is my opinion. So.
Exactly.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're moving on to the board of directors. Just notice of, new appointments, obviously Jen Nettles.
No, we got to do the minutes. Maureen,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry, yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
minutes. Thank you, Jeff.
we need to approve the minutes for our last 3 meetings, which came pretty fast.
Yeah.
That's why they're all, we usually approve them one by one.
Right.
So I guess I would ask, does anyone have any comments or corrections to the minutes? And if not, will someone move that we approve them? It really has to be Colin, because you...
I wasn't here.
Well, I could do it. Colin, if you do it, I'll second it.
I'm abstaining.
And I'll second it. All in favor of adopting those minutes for the 3 meetings, say aye. Aye. Okay, so Ronnie, those are
Okay.
accepted.
Thank you. Okay, the board of directors, Jen Nettles is the new appointed director representing the Bay Street as a corporate director on the board. We currently have 2 corporate member vacancies, Shaudell Baker of the Towers and Rachel Richards of the Federal Realty Investment, who represents the East Bay Bridge Shopping Center, are the 2 vacancies there. Shaudell actually resigned from Cushman & Wakefield and took another position. So I've reached out to them, Cushman & Wakefield and the Towers Property Management Company, and they haven't responded yet, but I'm hoping they're going to appoint somebody very soon. Jason Crouch, obviously the chamber is no longer, I think it's officially dissolved, so he's off the board as well. And I'm also looking at options in terms of replacing Rachel Richards. She previously tried to serve on the board, but her time was not available, so she resigned. But that position remains vacant, and I'm looking at options to fill that position in another way. So I've reached out to them. We currently have only 1 officer of the board, and that's Jeff. We don't have a vice chair, we don't have a treasurer, and we don't have a secretary. So I'm really...
We need a second one for sure.
We need a second one for sure.
To sign checks.
Yes, exactly. That was my exact point.
Because we have checks
We're
and balances.
chasing Jeff around the Bay Area trying to get checks signed when needed. Thank you, Mary, for doing that. So I would like to at least have 1 other officer of the board to serve on our executive committee. And the essential role of the vice chair is basically stepping in when Jeff is not available to run a meeting, kind of run the agenda. The secretary is more just kind of ensuring that the company's corporate, the organization's corporate records are set straight. We pretty much handle all of that for you. And the treasurer is basically the financial oversight of the organization. So
I would love to see at least 1 volunteer for 1 seat, so
yeah.
we don't have to sign a lot of checks, and they are sending them to me. And so
Right.
the ones that I need to sign, so I don't even think that has to happen. almost ever. But we need to, you know, count on the, I'm hit by a bus or
Yeah.
Emery going under.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, just from a governance standpoint, it's
Right.
prudent. So I'm hoping, Colin, you might volunteer since Jen is brand new and probably is a little anxious, but there will be other opportunities for positions.
I just need somebody to be added to the bank account, so I'll be contacting you to get you some information for the bank account.
Which one do you want?
Yeah, you've got an option.
Vice
Three.
chair,
Secretary,
treasurer, or
treasurer.
secretary?
Why don't I'll take the vice chair, I'll work with that.
Okay, that's
That's the one with the least requirements.
good. Yeah,
That's
it
right.
really is. Exactly, okay, fantastic.
So we had the existing residential vacancy, which we've talked
We-
about a lot.
right.
And that would, again, be a reason to, that was sort of a weakness that we recognized already,
Mhm.
and our proposal for new governance would address and resolve that.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, the
you know, we
options.
recommended there be, you know, the members of the public, I think you're aware, we recommended there be 2 representatives from the public, and we deferred to the city and how those people would be chosen, but we recommended appointment as opposed to vote, but we really said, whatever you think can work, city.
Mhm. Right.
And so I'm hoping that interested parties in the public are going to help them think of the right ways to pick those people.
So do you have any suggestions on ways to do that?
Well, I think when we discussed it, we said, we don't know, because we want those representatives to, ideally, the people whom they're representing feel like, you know, you don't always win the person you want for the election, but you want to think that's the person who got that post
Mhm.
in a reasonable way. And we weren't sure that a ballot election, what we said to the city is, we do not have the ability, and it's not our role to hold an election of that.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
can't have a citywide, you know, we're not that isn't our, we can't do it functionally, and it's not our role. So if you want that kind of election, you better figure out how to do it yourself. We recommended appointment, but I don't know if that's the best either. So,
Right.
anybody who has thoughts about that want to share them with the board now or later, we're happy to hear.
Well, I mean, I think you're a membership corporation, right? So all the members should have the right to vote for the people who represent them, just like the homeowners association. I mean, that's real simple. You have to conduct elections for some of your board members, so why not, you know, others?
Okay. Now, we've heard it, I hear no more discussion, so let's move on.
Okay, thank you. Third quarter financial and ridership.
What about your director's report?
Oh, thank you. I don't know
You
where I'm
keep
going.
skipping one ahead.
I'm just moving right ahead. I'm excited to get to the end, Jeff, okay? All right.
I think of this as sort of the meat right
Exactly.
here.
You're
but-
at task, yeah.
My executive director's report. Okay, so some of you know that we were doing an LED signage project on our buses. Our buses were not equipped with proper signage notifying passengers of what route they were getting on, what bus they were getting on. So the project is nearly complete. We have one remaining bus, which we had some issues with the installation. That's expected to be done by the end of the month. So happy to report that that project is nearly complete.
So it'll be on all buses then?
All buses. The older buses that are 5 years or older are going to have only rear signage. We tried to save costs that way, knowing that as we acquire new buses, LED signage will be a part of that purchase package. So rear signage was a must since we were approaching from the BART station from the
Yes,
rear.
yeah.
So the other newer ones have 3. They have one on the rear, the side, and then the front.
Okay, maybe a good idea once it's done, just to go through some of the older buses and make sure all the sticky tape is off the windows and because that's a bad impression.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you putting the full name or just a letter?
What's that?
You're putting the full name of the route or a letter?
They're putting the full name.
Full name.
Mhm.
Yeah, the buses that I've seen, it all looks really, really good. It's really,
Good.
really effective.
Yeah, it's nice, it's pretty good. We've had a recent reporting of Hollis issues with capacity. Pixar sent a few emails saying that they're getting pass-ups because of capacity issues during the
It's
peak
twice last
period.
week, because I was on the bus.
Were
that
you?
passed,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
On that subject, can we just step back? I realize maybe we should just, there are a couple things that have to do with this. The PBDI pass,
right.
can you remind us all when that increased source of revenues would be available to us?
So the increase will be effective January 1st, but we won't receive our first installment until towards the end of January.
But so we really have
But we have a cash balance still. that
increased
we have-
resources beginning in January.
Right.
Okay, so we got that. And then the other thing about capacity that, if you could remind us all, is you were ordering some new buses.
Mhm.
Are they here?
They're here, they're in service, yes.
And so we didn't
So we just haven't increased
throw the old
operations.
ones into the bay. We have them,
No.
but they,
We've lost 3. 3 have gone down, so they were replacements that were scheduled for replacement 2 or 3 years ago. So they ran a lot longer than we thought they would, but they're officially retired. We still
and one or
have,
two you were gonna sell for nominal residual
we're still
value.
working on selling those. We need to get the title slips out of the box at the bank, which I need you to come sign and
Come?
get in. You have to be
That's
there.
not a vice chair?
You are the only remaining officer on those papers. So unfortunately, you have to join us in
Oh, I thought
opening
that
that
was a vice
lockbox. So yeah, we are going to sell those vehicles. But we do have enough vehicles to run another shuttle. And we actually are working with Gina to get another driver trained on the routes and certified to
Well, I was just trying to,
haul us out there.
you know, you can't do anything without money and without
Right.
vehicles,
Mhm.
but so maybe we have a
Right.
little of both, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
and
We are
so-
looking for a Band-Aid approach to the solution until the new routes can be implemented.
Which you're gonna-
Which we're gonna get.
You
to.
have some suggestions?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
How we doing in terms of staff and drivers then? 'Cause I think basically.
We're having a turnover, we're having a turnover.
That's what I'm
We've had some issues with performance of some of the drivers, so there's been terminations. And we've also lost due to competition in the industry. So we are looking at ways to incentivize drivers, and I think we'll be coming back. I need to work these details through with the operator, but looking at bonus programs to kind of give them a little bit more of a carrot to stay on or come over to our service, because they're all under one, well, at least MV's region is under one collective bargaining agreement. So they all pretty much have the same, so they just choose the service that they want to go with.
And we had said it when the minimum wage issue was in front of the city that there would be some impact to us.
Right.
Does that give us a competitive advantage in any way, right? I mean-
Unfortunately, it does not, because they're under collective bargaining agreements. So the CBAs will overpower the minimum wage ordinance until which time they renegotiate their union contract. So their union contract doesn't expire until 2017. So, that won't be dealt with until that time.
So they actually are limited? The
Yes.
minimum wage thing doesn't override that?
No.
I see. So they actually will earn less and we can't do
Right.
anything about that?
Mhm. The good news is that they're pretty much in compliance with the minimum wage ordinance until 2017, in which the minimum wage jumps again. They've got this tiered approach in this minimum wage ordinance where the level is here and then it jumps again to another level. And I think at that point in 17, they're just short of that next level. So they are not
So another solution needs to be found.
exactly, right?
Can I
think-
ask how is it that they're able to get away without paying the minimum wage?
Well, they have the collective bargaining agreements, and there's some
But I
kind
thought
of,
they removed that from the
No,
issue,
they didn't.
because that affected Watergate, and Watergate was no longer able to use that, despite the fact that we have collective bargaining agreements for the two unions that are represented there. What happened was that one of the lawyer for eBase requested that it be pulled, and they, at the very beginning of a city council meeting without any advance warning to anybody, it wasn't in the agenda packet, Michael Gagnon got up and said that the attorney for eBase had requested that, and the city council voted 5-0 to pull it from the, and it's complaint based, so somebody would have to plane before anybody would notice it. I mean, they're not going around and checking everybody.
Mhm.
But my understanding, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but my
Mhm.
understanding was that, that no longer is an exemption.
Interesting.
Well, as it relates to us,
Right.
does anyone on the board feel any differently other than we need to direct Ronnie to make sure we have good,
Incentive bonuses.
dependable drivers
Right.
at the cost that takes?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Does your collective bargaining agreement include how the drivers are scheduled? Is that included in that?
I'm sure it does. I didn't review their agreement.
But right now, they're being paid it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
really, they should.
Right now, we're not,
It's not gonna matter
exactly,
until
it's not until 2017 until, exactly. And it might not even
And
be
they
an
have to
issue then because if
renegotiate
we
it
had,
then.
exactly. It's all about their scale of, like their startup pay is slightly below, but that's only for 6 months while they're in training.
Okay.
And then they jump to the first year and then they're over. So it's,
So they're
might not
being-
even be an
they're
issue if we
being
don't have too many
paid.
startups.
Yeah.
All the drivers will
Right.
be already kind of be higher than the minimum wage
Yeah.
expectation.
So where do drivers want to go besides here?
Well, fixed routes are a little bit challenging. They like the paratransit services, door-to-door services, and MD has a lot of those going out of that San Leandro facility.
Because maybe you just have more
More flexibility in
Time
terms
off,
of, yeah, exactly. Possibly more flexibility in your schedule and, you know, the adherence in fixed route is very critical and it can be a little bit stressful at times. So that's the only kind of reason I would think that they would want to do a paratransit service instead. And they might have incentives at those other, who knows what those contracts have in them. So if they have bonus incentives there, then perhaps they're getting it, you know, a little bit more at those other jobs. So I do want to look at an anniversary bonus program. So that's kind of what I'm angling at. Instead of performance, where we get in the middle of how they manage their operators, do it more of an incentive of bonus, of thank you for your years of service, of Emery Go Round and the TMA. So I just need to walk that through with their regional vice president. Okay, let's see here. Where was I on my agenda? Okay. So the third, ED report, sorry. I did, okay, so I talked about the pass ups and I talked about my discussion with Karen Lair about the PBID, you know, the push out of this whole governance structure. So I think that concludes my ED report. Now we can move on to business items.
Keep going,
Wonderful.
please.
Third quarter financial reports. You'll notice here that our revenue, we've received over the projected revenue for 2015. We did receive more PBID revenue this year. We are expecting to receive our next best sign revenue in the next 3 months. We've just sent those invoices out. Basically, it's a reimbursement for LED signage throughout the city and various businesses. And then we also will receive also additional funding from the West Berkeley shuttle. So we're looking good on the revenue side. We're also on target with costs right now at 75%. We've expended 75% of our budget, and we're the third quarter through the year, so we're on target. I do expect that if we are putting out another South Hollis to solve the immediate issue of overcapacity at that end of the corridor, that we will slightly go above budget this year. But to remind the board that we did have a cash purchase of $424,000 for vehicles this year, so that was also to push us over. Our operations, we chose not to implement a service increase, just kind of how we offset the cost of, you know, buying the vehicles versus putting it in the operations. Any questions on the financial reports? I'll just keep moving on then. Karen and I are looking into kind of better reporting for the board and reporting internally. We used to provide you with a kind of a table format of a bunch of information in terms of operator performance, and what we'd like to do is kind of focus on ridership increases and on-time performance. We need to work with MV to kind of identify the new format of on-time performance, but this is kind of our thought in terms of reporting ridership growth over the course of the year. So you'll see we started at kind of a lower end for all 3 routes, and they all sort of increase, you know, as we get to quarter 3. If you add up all the ridership for the year, we are on target to be at approximately the same as where we were last year. So I'm not seeing an increase in ridership from last year. However, I think we have some challenges in validating the accuracy of the ridership counts that are done by the operator. These are manual counts. There's a lot of room for error. And I'd like to look into more sophisticated software to help track some of this ridership information. I think it's important to track, and there are now programs out there where you can have a tablet and a driver can just be hitting on and off, and that data goes to a cloud somewhere and you can pull reports from it directly, so you're not having a whole lot of manual data entry. So your improvement of accuracy is much better. So.
Well, I like this so far,
That's
right?
much better, right.
It's the best data we have. If we can get better, fine. I still would like to continue to see reports while we're looking for
Absolutely.
better data. I'd appreciate if we could maybe have a trailing 2-year also.
Okay.
You know, because here you say, I mean, the natural questions are, is this growth seasonal? Like, does every year go up and then down?
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
And so the trailing would help us
Mhm.
Yeah.
just answer that before we have to ask.
Right.
I'd like to suggest that you check with the Alameda County Transportation Commission and see what their requirements are gonna be for funding, because they're gonna want this kind of information, so we find out what that is.
Okay. Are there any questions of the ridership reports? Right along then. The next item on the agenda is the 2016 budget. So the top portion, the projected revenue listed here is per the engineer's report and the PBID renewal. We've also adjusted our forecast for ETMA billed revenue. We had some adjustments to make for those residential parcels who were previously direct payers, and now, because they're within the boundary and they are in the new PBID, we had to remove those from our direct bill revenue. We still do have property parcels that are located just outside of the PBID boundary, so we'll continue to collect on those. It's actually increased because the large portion of those parcels outside the city are the East Bayford Shopping Center, and the retail assessments had increased. And then the Berkeley Gateway revenue for the team is estimated at $30,000 for the year, and that's consistent with the prior years. And we also have small revenues received for next best signs, interest income, charter services, and whatnot. For the expenditures,
You want us to ask all our questions at the
Go ahead.
end?
You can do revenue first.
So it was discussed that the engineer's report had no kind of allowance for uncollectible or bad debt, and
That's correct.
we've had that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I'll have to explain how I have to show that now and why. I had to show it differently now under the costs as opposed to an offset to the revenue.
okay, so there's something in here.
There is,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. It's there, but it's not like called out directly, so I definitely look into that. Okay, so we'll go through the expenditures. Bus leases and purchases. I'm proposing that we trade in our 2 transit coach vehicles. We had acquired 2 Eldorado vehicles about 5 years ago. Those vehicles are paid off in full, but we continue to have problems with part replacements. The parts are being ordered from Canada. It poses an issue because of timing. They can be down for something as simple as a light or something, and we have to order a part from a special place. It's not really a light, but it puts the bus down for days, and we've had too many months where the bus is down for a full month. So basically the bus is useless to us because it's constantly out of service. We've been working with Creative Bus Sales, who sold us the vehicle, to find a better parts vendor and to get around these issues, and we've had no resolve there. So I've already approached Creative Bus Sales to see if they would buy those back from us or trade them in for when we do our next vehicle acquisition. So I'll be looking into what the value of those vehicles is to offset our acquisitions in 2016. But I am proposing that we acquire 4 2016 cutaway vehicles at the beginning of the year. 2 of those really essentially are replacement vehicles and 2 are adds, plus the addition of one cutaway vehicle in the fall, later in the year.
Can you remind me the capacity of those vehicles?
They're 36 passenger, 2-wheel trip boardings.
36 seated,
Yes.
so
So really 45, 50 standing.
Do you ever look at the arrangement of the seats? Because if they weren't all towards the aisle, you could get people in and out of the bus a lot faster.
Right. You know, there's a lot of limitations in terms of vehicles that are available in terms of like having real transit seating where you've got seats facing the inside and seats facing this way. Rather than custom order a bus, we've just been buying the ones that are available and they just have the traditional row seating. So we can, if the board feels that they would rather see vehicles with different transit type seats, then we can look into custom ordering those vehicles. It's a little bit a trade-off. You have that seating is actually limits your seats. You don't actually have more. You have more standing room. So it's better for flow of people getting in and out, but it doesn't provide enough seats and people are standing now. More people are standing on the bus. So there's a trade-off there.
What about the front and the rear exits? I know some of the buses have those.
Yes, so we just bought the new, let's see, Starcraft All-Stars have front and rear doors, which is fantastic. And I think it's huge for, you know, getting people on and off. And we're trying to encourage people to board from the front and exit from the back so that we have a nice flow going. Not sure how that's actually working. I'll have to check in with our
I would
operator.
remind the drivers about that because the rear exit isn't used so often, particularly at the BART station,
Right.
which you have a lot of people trying to get off. You know, there's still times where kind of people have been, the bus is completely packed and they're all
Right.
trying to leave through the front doors.
Right.
I mean, you could help with signage or.
We put,
you know,
put signs up, exit at the
A
rear.
bell that tells the bus driver open it, right? Is that what the bus driver just isn't opening it, or?
Some occasions, yes.
Okay.
The rear exit isn't being opened.
Yeah.
Okay. They're probably not used to it.
Yeah.
Especially if a driver is driving a vehicle they're not used to.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
they have rear doors,
Yeah.
so they have to get used to making sure they open those doors. I thought they opened at the same time, but I guess they
They
don't.
don't, no,
You would
just usually
assume.
someone reminds the driver.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Let me out.
Let me
We'll
out.
talk to, yeah.
I'm back here, I want to get
Exactly. We'll address that with Gina and make sure the drivers know to
Okay.
try to encourage that flow. And we definitely will be looking into those options also for our new acquisitions. I'm going to be looking at other makes of vehicles too, because internationals tend to be a challenge in terms of maintenance because there's only really one maintenance provider, Peterson Trucks, who works on those vehicles, and so we are at their mercy. We get a vehicle in, it takes 2 weeks possibly to get us in the system and back out again. So we're looking at Ford models, Chevy models, but our issue has been that they haven't developed, there's not very many options in terms of 40-foot cutaway shuttles. So we are somewhat limited there. Maintenance, I've increased maintenance because I'm increasing the fleet size. Operations, the 1.61 million here is for the 15 to 20% increase in operating hours, plus the addition of 1 full-time assistant. So Gina that woman is busy. She is constantly inundated all day long with phone calls and managing the operation. She needs support, especially if we're increasing services. Gina's going to need an assistant to help overlap the times when she's not there, to make sure we have somebody on site all the time answering the phones, and somebody that has, you know, a little bit of management experience to manage the drivers. So I've asked MV to modify their agreement or their cost forms to include the addition of 1 full-time assistant to Gina. So this cost proposed here includes that. The budget here also reflects my proposed recommendation, which we'll go through in a little bit in terms of service planning or service changes to come. Fuel, again, bumped up because of the projected service increases. Communications, this is pretty standard for our next best system or driver cell phones. And we've got some bus stop signage. If you recall, I had requested board approval of replacement of bus stop signage, but I actually halted that project until we knew what our new routes were going to look like, because the signage will eventually change with the name. So I expect that will go through at the same time when we do the implementation of the new schedules. Down to professional services, management contract, increased management contract to reflect the estimated time for implementation of the new routes and schedules, and the increased oversight of the operation in general, just because the entire system is going to be increasing. And we are seeing a lot more comments and requests coming from the public on our service. So we need to be responsive to those and help kind of tweak the system to avoid issues.
Hopefully they're good as well as bad.
What's that?
Hopefully they're good as well as bad comments.
Yeah, we do. We get good comments. Yeah, we've got a lot of drivers get a lot of praise from
They
people
do
that
some-
that are
Right.
very respectful to them. So Yeah, good and
Nice,
bad,
yeah.
yes. And then we've got our office expenses, and occupancy reflects our lease agreement, lease terms, public outreach and membership materials. That's the annual report preparation, and we've got a pilot projects research, which we budget for every year, but we in the past have not used it. This might be the year with our new thinking caps on and going forward that we actually, start looking into other programs. And then
Well, speaking of
insurance
which, somebody is paying for bike share to come to the East Bay,
costs. Yeah,
MTC or somebody.
TC,
And, we're trying to, our mission is transit, get people out of cars. It's primarily met by the shuttle, but we do other things. And I just think we should ask you to work with the city to learn more about their plans so that that if we have any comment to the plans, we can give them. Because I just would hate for it to somehow be optimized that doesn't, in a way we don't find optimal.
Right.
Now that's sort of no cost investment right now because we're
Right.
paying for you guys. But,
Right, exactly.
I just would be upset if we all hear about it rolled out in the newspaper and
Right.
we don't,
They're actually looking at, I think it was the October, November timeframe, I believe that they were gonna be settling on, the plan for where the stations would be located and then going.
Yeah,
to
but I don't
council
know
in
that there's
December.
been any
Yeah.
public discussion and if there will be,
Right.
so.
Okay. We'll get- Make sure I stay involved with that activity.
I mean, we want the city to believe they have an obligation to be sharing stuff like that with us.
Mhm.
Ideally, we don't have to constantly ask, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just checked in with Amber Evans, she seems to be the know-all of.
well,
these
if we have a new
types of
liaison, I
programs.
think it's an opportunity
Yeah,
for us to
absolutely.
establish reasonable expectations
Yeah, exactly.
both ways,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Just so you know, that liaison too is only gonna be on for 6 months, she retires in April. So we'll.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
So we
well,
will be, yeah, exactly, maximizing our potential in getting things done with her until the next person is appointed. But she is great, I've worked with Cindy before. Okay, and the last item is our cash reserve, ETMA cash reserve deposit. So we've kind of dwindled down our cash reserve to a point where we need to kind of start rebuilding that up. I'm proposing that the $250,000 here be added to the cash balance below, increasing it to $525,000. However, as Jeff mentioned, we receive about $125,000 to $200,000 of uncollectible or delinquent PBID revenue. So that usually is shown above under revenue and would offset our estimated revenue projections above. However, showing.
We're not,
oh,
so for the new members, we're not in charge of collections.
Right.
The city and the county collect, and
Right.
we've had trouble forcing them
Mhm.
to pursue aggressively. Some people, we understand why that's probably hard to do, because it's
Right.
what AC Transit in the school district,
Mhm.
and,
Post office.
but the school district apparently made a commitment to the city to pay,
Mhm.
because they did this project together. So that was said publicly
Mhm.
in the discussion, so we need to,
Right.
I think this is again a place, if you can talk to the new liaison, and say, you need to tell us who you're not expecting to collect from and who you're not gonna make an effort to collect from.
Right.
Like, that's, that's their job to tell us,
Right.
right?
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. And I am expecting it to just be a little bit more, just because we're dealing with a lot more parcels. So the risk of not being able to collect all those, those assessments is greater.
So you don't have a, you're
I
saying that
have-
would
no,
come
I'm
out of
gonna
this
say
cash?
Exactly. So it's gonna offset our cash balance. So every year on our budget, I'm gonna show a cash reserve replenishment fund to replenish the monies that we will have to pay because of the short revenues that we receive. And the purpose of showing this under replenishment is it's part of our total budget line item, and therefore it maximizes our percentage that we would get from the city for the general benefit portion. So they're part of helping us pay that money back to ourselves, the revenues that we're short. So that's why we're now showing it down the bottom section. We have to.
So you said we're uncollectible 125 to 200, that could be a material portion of our
Exactly.
projected surplus.
Exactly, right.
So Ronnie, for my benefit, process-wise, you just said the city, our agreement for funding with the city lapses year-end.
Right,
And they told you last night they're gonna do some temporary one.
right.
Did they suggest at what level the temporary one will provide funding? Is it at the old level or the new level or something in
The
between?
funding is already set. So we, as far as Carolyn was aware, the budget is already set and approved and moved forward. So we're almost approving this budget internally as a way of the board agreeing on how we're gonna spend our money that we're
But
gonna
so
get.
you're saying that the temporarily, they're gonna give us access to the full
They're gonna give us
amount.
access to the full amount, exactly.
So we don't have a risk.
We don't have a financial risk here. It's more of just a risk of making sure the agreement is legally binding given the change in the PBID and the references made in the shuttle funding agreement. But yes, we'll be getting the full amount that was budgeted here, less any delinquencies. So essentially, I think we could have a replenishment of cash reserve of about 125 to 200,000, but it would depend on how many delinquencies we have. So we won't.
Can I ask when our next meeting is? The only reason I'm asking is we have a really small number of people
We
here.
do. Yes, we do.
And I'd like to take comments, but I would love,
More.
well, I don't know that we can get it, right? But I'd love to be able to give people who didn't show, saying, listen, the budget's gonna get acted on. We had comments, or
Right.
give them the opportunity to give comments remotely or something. I would love to leave that window open if we have a meeting
Right.
in
So
November,
the next
early
meeting is
December.
November 19th, which is the week before Thanksgiving.
What do the rest of the board members think about that? I mean,
We don't have the press that we usually do with getting the city council to approve it. So they've already approved it by passing the PBID. So we've got a little time before the end of the year to feel comfortable with our budget going forward. And I think this will be a little bit more put into context when you see the proposed service evaluation and then the MV contract renewal, which is pretty
well,
big.
maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Those things would be helpful to me.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Um,
So we can come back to this item
Mhm.
after we go through these other items.
Okay.
Let me ask you, when you talk about your next meeting, would you ever consider moving this meeting to 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock?
It would have to be at the pleasure of the board. What time would work for them? Sometimes it's easier to
I
get
like
in.
now.
Yeah.
Isn't your commute very difficult from Walnut Creek?
That's nice, yeah.
Let's leave it for now. Okay,
Yeah,
so what,
okay.
so we're gonna
Okay,
come back
so
to the
We're gonna come
budget.
back to the budget, and now we're gonna move on to the next item, which is our review of the shuttle operations and maintenance agreement, Amendment 1.
And tell me when so just before we get into the whole thing,
Right.
when does it expire?
So the agreement expires December 31st, 2015. It was a 3-year agreement that we entered into after going through a competitive procurement process, if you recall. Jen, you're new, so this is just history, a little background for you. We had a competitive process, which we had 2 top-ranked firms, interviewed both, and MV won the job, basically. This was the first time Emeryville had ever changed operators since their beginning of time. Beginning of time, well, that's a little bit. Since the beginning of the service, exactly.
Yes, it's been around that
Yeah,
long.
mid-90s, exactly, so.
I read that paperwork.
When we initially had decided to go out for bid, this is just taking you a little bit further back, our costs were just increasing in operations. The contract that we previously had no controls on it for risk to the contractor. It was just basically you pass through everything that you spend and then you have a markup on it. That hurt us financially for a few years. And so we decided to go out for competitive bid, and V won the job. Their bid was obviously, was the lowest bid. And we also had a huge cost savings at that time because of the bid that they had and the controls that we have in place in terms of the cost forms, which are now being updated in this packet here. Let's see here. So that gives you the history. It expires in 2015. And I've met with the regional VP who is kind of leading the new proposed pricing packages for 2016 and 17, discussed my concerns for driver pay. I really made it clear to them that we need fair driver wages. We don't want to have turnover. So I think we're kind of stuck with the union agreement. So that's why we're talking about this bonus structure. We've also estimated the number of service hours through 2017, given our kind of estimate for increase in service over the next 2 years, and also addressed the issue of needing a new assistant manager. So they have completed the cost forms, which are attached here in your packet. And I've done a little bit of analysis because the cost forms are so detailed that it can really be hard for you to say, well, what was it before and how did it change? And so what I've done is a little tables here in the back of the staff report that shows the comparison of increases from the prior year. And I apologize, the first 2 tables say, in the far right column, say increase from 2017 when it's really 2016. So the first year, you'll notice a dramatic increase, especially in the Emery-go-round. 42% increase in the fixed rate. So I should go through with you just how the cost forms are set up. We have fixed rate, which is kind of most of the overhead costs, the management support team, the insurance, vehicle insurance, all of those items are packaged into the monthly fixed cost. Then we have the fixed rate per hour, which is kind of our variable cost, meaning if the TMA decides to change their service hours, we have the ability to do so, and we're just paying more service hours, basically, at a rate that they've defined here. So on our invoices, we get a fixed rate per month and a fixed hourly rate, and the service hours are the only variable item there. The fixed rate per month increased 42%. This is primarily because we've added another staff person, management staff person. And we've also, some of the costs have increased, insurance, all of costs of that nature have increased a little bit. And with the fixed rate, we have a 6% increase, which isn't really that significant. We have a 2% decline, and I think that's because what they do is they build in a lot of the costs that are with hiring, driver retention, and all of that the first year, and hiring new drivers. So they built those costs into the first year, and then the second year they kind of drop down a little bit. West Berkeley Shuttle, another service that we run.
Well, can I ask just about these next 2? We do, someone else pays, and we're
Right.
supposed to make money,
Exactly.
right? So can you tell us how long these 2 other people have contracted with us to do it?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Because we're not going to do it, the second they stop paying us, we're not doing either one.
Right, exactly.
So-
Exactly. So the A2Go shuttle agreement is actually going to be it's on the agenda today to get approved. There's a delay in getting the Fifth Amendment on the agenda because we didn't have the cost from MV, and we can't commit to a funding agreement until we know what we're going to have to pay in costs. So when we finally received the cost from MV, the cost proposal, I've had to go back and forth with Brad from the city of Emeryville, and we've finally settled on the amendment to the A2Go agreement, which is here, and it covers the cost of the service in full. So A2Go.
For how long? I mean, how long,
It's
if
only through
they
June
approve this?
I think this is only until June of 2016, so
So
for a
6
year.
months.
Yep.
Or,
So a year, retroactive to
Right.
July 1st. And part of that is because they have a grant funding that they really can't commit beyond a year's term until they solidify their grant funding. They receive a grant to run this service from the Alameda CTC measure.
so can I ask, this is a nice to-do thing if we make some money. Is this worth the hassle?
Well, I think in
Putting
terms
aside the
of-
sort of psychic benefits, right? I mean,
I think that's kind of what more it is that we're helping with the transportation solutions in Emeryville. So we are providing door-to-door service for senior citizens and people with disabilities. So
do
we're
we make
partnering.
any money on it?
We offset some of our management costs. That's really all it is.
Like to what degree?
I think it's like $5,000 per year, approximately.
And how much do you think you spend on doing it?
Under $5,000 per year. I mean, within that $5,000 per year.
So we don't probably.
We're really
But there's
putting
more
out at a
buses,
wash.
there's more buses out on the road.
Well, there's only one, this is one
Only
van.
one.
It's one van, it's like a Dodge Caravan that goes door to door. It is a very popular service in the city, I mean, highly used.
Yeah.
And we don't actually, our dispatch team doesn't dispatch it, the city handles those. We just provide a driver and a vehicle. Gina oversees the operations. I work with the city at the management level to make sure we're filling the needs of the service. but really, it's
It's
not
just a
too much of an
wash.
effort, it's a wash. We really don't earn, I would say, a revenue per se, we offset some of our management costs, but really, it's almost a reimbursement service that we're providing.
Would people,
But so we're
would
not
people
subsidized,
complain if
we're
we
not
were
in any way
that-
subsidized.
No, it's fully paid by the
Yeah.
city, exactly, yes.
I mean,
Fully
even
paid
at the
by city.
management time, you're saying, your best guess, we're not paying more for you to do it than they're reimbursing
No,
us.
absolutely not.
Okay.
No. So it's fully reimbursed. Whereas the West Berkeley shuttle is a little bit of a different arrangement. We're partnered with the Berkeley Gateway TMA to run one shuttle from the Ashby BART station to the West Berkeley area. And we connect to that area with Emeryville at the Berkeley Bowl. We've been running that service for about 4 or 5 years now, I believe. And the agreement is set to expire in December, and I will be coming back in November after I speak to the president of that TMA about the new cost structure, because it is going to change. The costs have not changed for them since we initiated the agreement 4 or 5 years ago. But now we have been earning a revenue. And the reason we really need to make that revenue is that the PBID funds really can't cover costs outside of the PBID boundary. And the West Berkeley Bowl, the Berkeley Bowl stop is outside that boundary. So we need to recover our costs for the merry-go-round to provide that connection up there. So we do earn a revenue from that service. With the new proposed pricing, it's evident that we're going to have to amend that agreement on a financial, to cover the finances of it.
So those things are each kind of annual renewals, sort of.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And any contract we would have with MV lets us,
Sever those services when need be, yeah. We're not
Okay.
committed to it. We have the ability to cancel services if need be.
and what is the agreement regarding termination with MV overall? I mean, the reason I'm getting at this is, we're gonna have a temporary funding agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really prudent, business practices would say, we don't commit beyond what the commitments we have.
Right.
And it would really make me feel better and put pressure on the
Right.
city to say, we can't do any of this, we can't really, the more we act like we're running it forever, the less pressure there is for them to resolve the open issues in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Right. You want to weigh out. If
well,
you
I'm
need
just
it.
asking,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
So I'm going to look in the agreement again, but if I recall, it does have a clause in there that says that if the funding of the system is ever removed or jeopardized or falls through at any reason, then we do have a right to terminate. So we are not held to the agreement. But I think there are some stipulations that, you know, we'd have to prove that, yes, our funding is, you know, falling apart. So we'd have to demonstrate that to them. We can't just, without cause, you know, terminate the agreement, but that would be cause to terminate it.
and how long did, they said this temporary thing is gonna be a year, but we're gonna get everything in place in 8 months? Or what did they say about that?
6 to 8 months. Carolyn's thought is that it'll take approximately 6 to 8 months to finalize the shuttle funding agreement, which includes the governance and all the details of the strings attached in terms of 5-day service, 7-day service. The city now needs to ratify any route changes that would impact assessments collected by parcels in different corridors and service areas. So those are the details I think that will take time to work out for them.
Yep.
I'm not sure governance is the reason why it's going to take so
Well, I
long.
know, but
I was surprised to hear that.
We
and I
just need
did
to hear
mention
all that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more of the details in terms of how we adhere to the PBIT, the new management plan, because it's a lot more detailed. There's a larger breakdown of parcels and all of that. So those are the details.
Because I just, if there's lots of details there, all those conditions are things we need you and an MV to do. So I'm just a little anxious about, let's hire them for all these costs, for all these things, not, you know, ideally you'd have a better confluence of
Right.
what are we getting, what are the strings attached, how do we offload all those, because we don't want any
Right.
arbitrage risk, you know, so.
Right. I understand.
Do you have any confidence we don't have arbitrage risk? No, right? I mean, you
Well,
don't.
Not yet. I
Yeah.
haven't seen the first year's revenue come through. I don't know exactly
Yeah.
what we're dealing with going forward. So
Okay.
I think your concerns are valid, Jeff. I think We could choose not to do the increases.
Well, this was just, they
Yeah.
were gonna have all this done by year end, and this all makes sense, that, you
Right.
know, like, so, and we don't know why this is, so we need to
Right.
learn that. But
Exactly, yeah. So we
what
could.
else do you wanna talk about? I
So
mean,
basically-
I'm just, that's my anxiety about this,
Yeah,
right?
I understand.
You have any thoughts,
Forward
Colin?
on
You know, that's, not really, no, it's just wait and see how, you know, that side of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our options here are, I mean, we obviously are out of contract, so we could,
Well, not till year end,
Not
right?
till
not until year
Not
end,
till year
exactly,
end.
till
There's
year
no
end,
time.
exactly. What we could do is, you know, review the contract, but not do any service changes right away. I mean, if you guys want to hold back on the service changes.
Well, you're
that
gonna tell
would-
us what you recommend about
Exactly.
those, so we
Yeah,
should
I
get
think
into
we just
that.
see
We
those
can
first.
go into that, exactly. So do you want to hold off on the amendment right now until
Well,
you
let's
do the
just-
service changes, or?
We gotta,
Okay.
show us all the pieces of the puzzle.
Okay. Got pieces hidden here. All right, so the next item is actually, I guess what we could do, I mean, I've talked to you about the shuttle, the paratransit agreement. This was a handout today. We just got this last night from the city. And this basically extends the term a year, but relatively 8 months, through December 2016, or not December, June 30th, 2016. The funding, the not to exceed amount for reimbursements has also increased to be in line with the new operating costs proposed here by MV, and also allows for a $5,000 major maintenance expenditure.
Well, I'm willing to move
Vehicle.
approval of this,
Okay.
along with you being empowered to do what you need with MV, to contract with them to do what we're obligated to do here.
Okay.
I move that.
Okay.
It's all dependent on the city approving this, right?
Right. Exactly. It's supposed to go to council, yeah, next month. Do we have a second?
Well, we can't vote yet anyways. We need Jen back.
No, you can. You have to start with the quorum. As long as you've
Okay.
got 2 in the room that are
Second?
going to approve, then, okay.
And then we're both in favor because we moved it.
Thank
So-
you. I know it's a little weird, you guys. We usually have a lot more people here, and it's just the 2 of you, so.
It is efficient though.
No
It is,
pressure,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Get it done.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the Emery-go-round options then. Just there it goes. Okay, that's much better. Okay.
We're a
so-
pretty knowledgeable group, so you don't have to
Exactly.
start from.
I was going to give Jen a little background, she's not here. So obviously the objectives of our service revisions is that we increase capacity in our overly crowded areas and improve route efficiency. Review of current service, you know, we currently have 4 routes. We have a Shell on Powell, which operates 7 days a week, a Hollis, which operates 5 days a week, South Hollis, which operates also weekdays during the commute period only, and the Watergate Express weekdays during the commute period only. South Hollis just provides redundant service at the south end just to reduce overcrowding. But that is only 1 shuttle, it runs every 35 minutes, so we're still having an issue with overcrowding in that area. These are the routes that we serve. A lot of you are familiar with that. If you're not, I've got route guides here available for you. Our issues that we know with our current service, we have a lot of overcrowding during the peak period. We've had complaints from some of our business members at the north end of the service area that there's long travel times for them to get to and from BART. The long routes also make it difficult for us to adhere to the schedule during high traffic periods. And we've received numerous complaints, albeit from
One
small
person.
group
No,
of
no, let's
individuals.
be honest, right? Is it one person?
It's 2.
2 people.
2 people. Frequent
This
noise
is
obstruction.
ongoing as well, this is not like the old reports we had, these are new reports.
Yes,
From the same people.
from the same people.
One of them
As
came
current
here,
as yesterday,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. As current as yesterday. Previously reviewed routing options, I'm not sure, I know you 2 were probably here. Farron Pierce did conduct a evaluation of our service in early 2014. The purpose of that evaluation was really to identify areas of overcrowding and areas of ridership. Part of this is kind of a backup in terms of validating our need for increasing services and encourage revenue participation from the city. Identify areas with high levels of ridership, identify service options to improve the balance in the overall system. The outcome of the evaluation was Fair and Peers have recommended a truncated route, Shell Powell route, and a new Powell Bridge route to serve the north end of the Shell Christie area and the south end of Hollis, which I will show you. I'm going to go to this slide next just to show you what it was. So the new route is the orange, and it would go up Hollis and go over the Powell Bridge there, serve the north end of the Shell Christie loop. I hope you're following me. Sorry, I don't have a little pointer. And then go back down and provide redundant service along the south end of Hollis. The Powell route would just be revised to basically not serve the north end of the Shell Christie area, but rather serve the peninsula, with the exception during the peak period, to which they propose that we do not provide redundant service down there because there are way too many vehicles going down there during the peak period, with the Watergate Express also servicing that area. And then the Watergate Express route would remain the same. Let's see here. The benefits and disadvantages of this option. The benefits, it would improve the system. It does provide redundancy at the south end of Hollis to reduce costs caused by overcrowding. Improves frequencies of service to the south end of Shell Mountain and Powell Peninsula, and provides additional capacity to the north end of Shell Mountain Christie to accommodate the anticipated growth in that area. The disadvantage is it does not solve the long travel times to the north end of the service area. It doesn't provide inter-city connectivity to the peninsula during the peak period. It does not provide connectivity to and from the north and the south end of Shell Mountain Christie. And eliminates weekend service north of Powell on Shell Mountain Christie and increase shuttle traffic at the south end of Hollis. So we would have way more buses going through there, probably 8 an hour, which is a lot. So maybe we're becoming more of a problem. Estimated cost for proposed changes. This is again the Fair and Peers option. Is the overall the option they're proposing was to just change the route structure overall. There was no peak, not peak changes. It was just change the routing overall for all days of the week.
So they have help me. They have a recommendation.
Right.
You have some other ones. How many are you gonna?
One.
Just one.
Just one
Okay.
recommendation, yeah. So I just wanted to revisit, so you guys know, I don't want to take you, I mean, we're going down a path, and I want to make sure I'm
I
telling
just
you why
wondered how
we're
many
changing
branches
path.
in the path.
No, we're only two branches. Okay, so this is the estimated cost, essentially $395,000. New proposed routing options. Now,
These are Gray Bowen's
Yes.
recommendations.
Yes.
Okay.
Gray Bowen and MVs, based on our discussions with the operations team. My proposal is to improve the service period, since that is where we are really seeing the issues. And improve connectivity to and from BART during that time. The Hollis route proposes split route, north and south Hollis service. Shell Mountain Powell route, do the same. Reduce service to the peninsula to serve every 20 to 30 minutes. And Watergate Express just would remain as is. Commute service period is 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The new proposed routing options would not change the existing service during the non-commute period, so we would default to the existing routes as we have them today to increase the conduciveness to intercity connectivity. The North Hollis. So some of you may remember years and years ago, we did have in North and South Hollis split. We had to consolidate those routes to maximize our, benefits in terms of cost savings. So I'm recommending that we now split those out again to provide more direct service to the north end of the shuttle route by way of San Pablo Avenue to cut over to Powell. First stop would be the Amtrak station over there on Horton Street and 59th. And then it would come back out, go up north on Hollis, and proceed to follow the current routing at that end of the city.
How are you making that U-turn there?
Through the Amtrak bus pullout. There's a bus pullout there.
Yeah, not for long, but that's fine.
Uh-oh.
Keep going.
Another
That's fine.
option.
No, we don't want to
We
get
have other
granular.
options to do that, yeah. We have other options to turn around there, but we would have to go down, obviously.
But so for the benefit of people here, Colin is gonna, you had a big loop that sort of went around properties in our neighborhood, properties in his neighborhood, and now you're just sort of doing a flag.
The loop is
call.
going to be made on South Hollis.
Oh, okay.
So, and
All
they will
right.
provide connectivity to these two stops.
So this is identical except for, instead of a loop, a flag.
Exactly. Right.
Why do we go out that rectangular box in the middle of the north run?
You know, there's a residential neighborhood back then, there's an industrial, you know, it's always been there, we've always served that, we don't really need to. We do have a lot of ridership in there. We get a lot of pickups out there, yeah, we, on the.
Yeah, but you can't have more than all the other parts of that run, right? So I would ask why that.
Okay.
That's time,
Right.
right? One of the problems is time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that just seems like it's a short walk, but that's a big, long,
Right,
so I have that question.
right, okay,
Yeah, you do get a lot of people from there.
right.
Well, I get it, but I mean,
How many, yeah, what is that?
how close do you have?
Right, yeah.
If everyone else is walking, you know, that's not very far, right? So,
Exactly, yeah. And then we go up to the Emeryville there and come back down.
I mean, I get there, you're just trying to turn around, right?
Right, exactly. Actually, you know what, Jeff? I think what the reason that it's like this is because that was the turnaround point before the Emeryville stop came on. And I bet you they just didn't want to eliminate the stops when they did the route changes. So I was just coming on board at Emery around at that time, and I believe that was when the service changes made. I think that was the prior turnaround location.
Because I'm gonna,
Emeryville
look,
stop.
if you're gonna take our big loop away,
Right,
I know we have more people between Griffles, Novartis, and us than that lot one is, so you should just say, okay, we're gonna,
take that
if
away.
if people are gonna sacrifice to
Right.
let.
I think,
Yeah.
actually, I will say, this is not gonna, this is actually gonna improve service.
To all the areas. So we aren't taking away that loop, it's just in the south route as opposed to being in the north route. So we have less overcrowding, you know, because a lot
You
of our
can keep
overcrowding,
going.
yeah.
I just,
I'll show
so
you-
you're gonna
I'll show you
invest,
how
I don't
that
get, that seems, that doesn't seem logical.
Okay, okay. I'll look into that, and I'll look into the ridership on that route and the stops.
So if you're gonna do that, you're gonna notify those people, or you're gonna just do it?
Oh, no, they'll be.
We're not deciding anything, we're asking her
We're
to
just
look into
looking
it.
into
I'm just asking
Yeah.
a question.
So the benefits of the split route is it provides more direct service to and from the Amtrak station. So we do have connections happening from BART to Amtrak. It also provides direct, you know, service, more direct service to businesses and residents located at the north end of the city. Reduces travel time to BART, around an estimated 3 to 5 minutes without having to stop at all those stops at the south end of the Hollis route. And it significantly reduces overcrowding on our vehicles. The disadvantage is that in order to, the transfer is required to get to and from the south and north end. So it's not a one shot, you have to transfer a shuttle at some point. But there are transfer points on the line at various stop locations. Go through that with the next route. Here's the South Hollis. So the South Hollis just serves the south
Well,
end.
the transfer, I mean, one route goes the whole way, so if you wanted to, you can get on that and not transfer.
During the commute period, I'm proposing that we split it entirely, we not have a full Hollis.
Yeah, 2 stops.
I see.
Yeah. So you would, because really we are running commute service. I mean, we know through our ridership and our rider reports that during the commute period, we are essentially
Shuttling to BART, so how can we do that the most efficient way? And I think I'm proposing that we use all of our resources on Hollis to get people to BART faster as opposed to, let's just do 2 and 2 and then 2 on the full. Let's just split it all out and provide more efficient services during the commute period. And people will have the opportunity to connect by these connection stops, which in this case is stop 7 and 8 here on the South Hollis. So we have 2 North Hollis stops, and riders can easily transfer and make those connections there. We also have redundant service here. We're going to serve this quadrant by 2 routes because we're providing those connections. And
Is that corner of the Amtrak station?
This is, yep,
Okay, cool.
yeah. So providing better connectivity to Amtrak, to and from Amtrak.
So for people in the Pacific Park Plaza marketplace, this really provides some good options, which has been a problem before.
Okay, good.
So can you just show again on this, the North Hollis, back to the BART from this onwards, where it's coming back?
You want to go back to the North Hollis one? I don't have them together, I'm sorry.
Even just with the pointer, if you could just give
Oh,
it a
right
go.
here?
Yeah.
So the North Hollis would connect you here at these points.
Yeah.
And would obviously come back and go back down south.
All right, so it's
Pablo.
okay, so it's
Yeah.
not coming back.
So it's not coming back through the route here.
Okay, yep.
It's going to travel
Just
down
checking
San
that.
Pablo. It might travel down Horton. I don't know what the best way to get back is. We're going to look at timing, commute traffic. 40th Street gets backed up during the commute, so does San Pablo. So what's your best option at getting back to the BART station faster? Traffic is just an
So
issue.
for a layperson, is it fair to say, kind of what you've been doing with the Watergate Express, you're splitting the town into areas, and during commute, you're kind of saying, I got this little pickup area, and then I go straight to BART, right? Is that?
Exactly, yeah. You're just providing more, it really won't impact south, except for the fact that it won't have as much overcrowding, because you're not having all those people from the north, the bus filling up, and then by the time you get down to 45th, you're full. You can't take passengers when you're driving past people at their stops.
Because you'll have half the number.
Because we'll have half the number, half the route,
stops.
and then the dense service, I mean, this is where ridership really takes, fills up, is in this area.
Yeah.
So providing the redundant service here will also reduce that problem of overcrowding.
Yeah, usually by the time it gets to us, it's 53rd, the bus is pretty full.
Full, exactly, yeah. So that's what the south will feel the difference in the overcrowding and not having the overcrowding of the buses. And again, it reduces the number of passengers to the south end of the route, and also, as the other disadvantage is that we won't have a full Hollis, so you would have to transfer to get to the north end of the city if you get to from the south, during that commute period only.
And which is?
7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 3 to 7 p.m. North Show Mound. So this is new. We've had, requests from people in this area. I know Public Markets made the request before. That it just takes too long. This Show Mound Power Route is extremely long right now. It's 45 minutes long. It's way too long, and it's not efficient at all as it is today. So I'm proposing that we can keep it during the off-peak period, because it does allow the intercity connectivity. But during the commute period, split it out as we did with the Hollis. And we are looking right now at running it up the freeway, which we may change that. We're not totally set on how we get back to BART, but knowing that the freeway is just as congested as everywhere else. But essentially, we would exit the freeway, serve Trader Joe's here, Bay Street, and then go straight up the Shell Mound corridor here down Christie, turn right, get back on the freeway, and come back to BART. So again, provides more direct service to the north end of the service area. Also, reduces travel times 3 to 5 minutes, which is pretty big.
When you get on the freeway, how do you get off and go back to BART? What?
MacArthur Boulevard, I think?
Yeah.
You take MacArthur Boulevard? It's the same way the Watergate Express operates. It gets right off there near the stations. And it reduces overcrowding. Again, Shellman also has overcrowding at the south end of the route. The disadvantage is that, I'm going to show you this real quick. There's one connection point that we just can't make directly, and that is the stop here. Okay, where's my map? There it is. Here and here. So if you're going to connect, if you want to connect from the north and go to the south route, you would have to get off the bus at Kinko's here and walk across the intersection here and get on at Trader Joe's. So there's a short walk, less than a quarter mile walk, and a transfer of a shuttle. So that's the disadvantage during the commute period. The South Shell Mound POW is this configuration. It serves the south end of the city, provides connections to the north by way of these 2 stops here, and it also serves the peninsula. The option the board has of this is we could provide service all the time to the peninsula, but I am proposing that we only provide service during the peninsula during the commute period every other run, so essentially 20 to 30 minutes. Every 20 to 30 minutes. The reason of this is that we do have a lot of buses traveling down that corridor.
When you say the peninsula, you mean the extreme edge of the peninsula.
Exactly.
You're serving,
I would still
the
serve
whole
the
thing's the
towers.
peninsula, right?
Exactly.
So you, just to be clear for our residents,
Right.
what you mean,
What
it's
I
the
mean
dotted
is,
line?
exactly, so, and I apologize, this should have been solid. I would still serve the towers here, but I would not serve beyond here and go all the way up to the marina. Only every other bus. I need to figure out how we're gonna get that done in the schedule. I haven't done the implementation yet.
So you're serving it a little
We're
less frequently.
serving it just less frequently.
But
Providing
the
half the
maximum frequency is available where?
So it would be the BART station, so.
No,
Oh,
I mean,
sorry.
if you were on the peninsula,
Right.
anywhere, and you wanted the maximum frequency, it's always available where, at the towers?
Yes,
Yep.
that's the last stop that it would serve is the
Well,
towers.
how many people are you really picking up on that other line?
You know, it's more, we have the higher traffic going on Watergate Express because people during that commute period are coming to and from the BART station. So we don't have a whole lot of intercity traffic going there, which is why I'm proposing that we do that.
How's the marina working out? You getting people from there?
Sorry, what was that?
You get people out to the marina using it?
We do, yeah, occasionally. People, we have nice emails that they love the marina stop, so.
Yeah, but how many?
I
Do people love it?
I'd have to look. It's amazing, those squeaky wheels, you know.
What do you all think of that?
Well, we were talking about it briefly
Yeah.
before the meeting started, and I think the problem is going to be, I don't take it that often. I did take it today for this, but I usually either walk or have to drive places. I think the problem is going to be for people who rely on the bus entirely. Yesterday, or someday this week, I was on the bus and it went into the towers and they got an instruction that they should skip going out to Watergate, which they couldn't do because there were a number of people on the bus. There were 2 people who were going to Watergate, but they don't always go out there anyway. And if you have a bus that's running every 15 minutes and they miss a stop, a run, it's not that big a deal. But if you're doing it every half an hour, then it is a big deal because then you're waiting 45 minutes or an hour for the bus. And I think you'll hear from people. Joyce, I'm sure, has strong opinions on it. She's not going to be available for another month or 2, but I think she'll have strong opinions. And I think there are other people who take it on a regular basis who will have opinions. So that's
And this is all about the
And it's the
turnaround,
regularity.
problem,
It is,
right?
Yeah, and the whole, you know, when things are not very regular and you can't really count on it, then
Right,
then it's not as appealing.
right.
And now you pay and you get less service.
Well, I think we're just trying to.
Especially now that we're paying.
These are
trying
all
to balance it
recommendations
out.
that we're discussing.
Yeah, these are just
today.
balancing
I
out.
mean-
We have to consider what we're spending in money and operations and maximize our potential of running a service efficiently.
I
And if
understand.
we're
I
not
understand.
getting ridership, then we have to kind of think about those options that would reduce services and save money, because it does cost us a lot to run out the peninsula.
Well, you're not recommending removing this.
No,
It's
no,
just-
no. Basically,
just
what we're gonna,
reducing the-
exactly,
the
reducing
quantity
service,
of time.
exactly. Currently, right now, for
So-
those of you that know, we have Watergate Express, which also runs the same route. And there's buses going down that corridor every 5 minutes, or 5 minutes, or 6 minutes. So during the peak period, it's a little overwhelming for the residents, and that's one reason. And I'm not proposing it for that reason alone. I'm proposing it because I think it will save money. So
I think that the big problem is going to be that a lot of us encouraged people to vote for the PBID at Watergate, and not that our votes would have made that much difference, but for those people who did vote for it, to vote for it, and then right after the PBIDs passed to
Right.
cut the service, I think.
Well, it's
I think
reducing,
you'll
yeah,
hear
I mean,
from people.
and it's all about that.
Right.
I mean, what I hear you saying, Betsy, is, please tell me if I'm not accurate, but no one cares if it's here, right? Is that, I mean,
At the police station and the Watergate Market.
These 2 points.
this is not the sensitive piece.
Right.
And the only reason this is harder, you can't turn here, so you gotta go all the way down, right?
Exactly, we're committed to go to the end after we pass the towers. And I should note one other thing about this route.
because we've truncated the route, it's shorter, meaning that we can provide more frequent service. So currently, right now, those people are getting service every 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and I'm proposing 20 minutes to 20 to 30 minutes. So it's not a huge difference in terms of timing, because we are going to have more frequent service because the route's truncated. It won't take 45 minutes to complete a route. It'll only take 25 minutes or 30 minutes. We have to test the runs, make sure we know the timing during the high peak volumes, but we are able to provide more frequent service because we have truncated the route.
I think that what, I'm going to tell you where honestly where I think the problem is going to be. I think the problem is going to be somebody with mobility issues gets on at the BART station, and then it's dropped off at the towers.
Okay,
I
so
think you're going to hear
if
from
they're going to be at the BART station, then they would take the Watergate Express, and they
No,
would be
because it
served,
only-
right?
Well, then the other thing is that how much of an overlap is there going to be with that, or not overlap?
Yeah,
Who
the,
pays for the Watergate Express? Excuse me.
Well, it
ignorance.
just comes out of the revenue. It's all
just
part of the whole
It's just
system,
part of
yeah.
this. And the
The
Watergate,
reason
and the
why-
Watergate
yeah.
Express is literally a bus that takes the Watergate residents
Exactly.
to.
No, the Watergate
Towers.
Express is the towers.
It's
and
the towers.
It's called Watergate
it-
because
yeah.
it used to be the
There's
Watergate
the-
Towers.
right.
So it's literally taking them. So this bus is a dual
It's
bus.
a dual bus, exactly.
So we
The only
don't
thing, the
have
water,
two dual buses
the
going
wa-
through his neighborhood that's packed,
No.
right?
The only difference is the
Right?
Watergate
You're saying
Express
they're
does not go through the
Yeah, it's
city.
the same, yeah.
So if a person was at Bay Street or Trader Joe's or one of these areas at the lower end of the city, they would have to wait an extra 10 minutes to get a bus. Whereas the Watergate Express provides service every 15 minutes. So the whole marina.
Okay,
the
I'm
whole
gonna,
service.
so,
Perfect.
so there's a question about this little piece of this one change, right?
Right.
So let's,
So we can
why don't you
continue,
finish?
move on.
continue the other items.
Yeah.
Exactly. I understand Betsy's concerns.
Because these
and
are
I-
pretty
I
big changes,
respect that.
and this is one issue in one route, but,
Exactly, right.
you know.
I just wanted to make sure you understand the difference that I'm proposing is the frequency is tighter, so it won't be as big of an impact.
May I ask one more question?
Yes.
How often do you make changes like this?
We don't make changes very often.
You don't make changes very often?
No.
So
We haven't made a
will you-
change to the routes in probably over a year, so,
Okay,
yeah.
but every
And
year
then
or so
before that, it
you'll
was
take a
probably
look?
3 years before that,
Okay,
so,
because as developments come on,
right.
you're gonna be making adjustments
Exactly.
and changes. So this might only last for 18 months until a new development comes on, and that significantly impacts your route, and then you'll
Exactly.
revisit it at that time.
Right. If we need to revisit the way we balance our system better, if we've noticed an influx in ridership because of new developments come on, we don't have enough service to serve them, then we would have to just decide what we need to do to change the system and better balance it.
Okay.
We are confined in terms of the limited resources of financial, our financial resources, so. This is more of the same, the benefits and the disadvantages. Obviously, the disadvantage is the limit to the intercity connectivity during the commute period. But the benefit would be to reduce noise disturbance to the service trips down the peninsula. Here's the impact. So the Shellmound POW route, current service is listed in the first 2 columns here. We would go from a number of 6 vehicles during the commute period to 7, which is shown over here. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Hollis. 6 to 7. Non-commute period won't change. So we're increasing a vehicle by 1. The frequency would be the same, and the travel times would be reduced. You'll see there by about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Cost increases, we need one additional driver to run this. We're going to shift that South Hollis driver onto this new split route. So my estimate is $130,000 for the capital, the vehicle, and the operating cost of the driver and the fuel. The north, these are the Shellmound impacts, proposing an increase of 2 vehicles during the commute period, and you'll see the great benefit of the travel times from the North Shellmound area going from 25 to 27 minutes to 15 to 20 minutes. So these need to be verified when we go through the field tests of the actual routes, but this is our estimate today. We will see a change though in travel times. And then the cost proposal is $205,000 for operating costs and capital.
If you went down Stanford to Market to try to get the bar, would that be faster?
Market would be an issue because we're going through Oakland, and I think our buses driving down Market Street might pose people wanting to get them around service, as we've had other issues with driving through Oakland
Because I know
streets.
40th is really packed.
It does, yeah.
So-
We're thinking of going down Shellmound, San Pablo instead. I think all the corridors get packed. I think it might be better to go down Horton and then go down 40th, but you're still stuck in the 40th Street traffic, so I think it's just spread out at that time. Total proposed costs would be $385,000. Actually, you know what? I apologize. I meant to correct this. $400,000. I had to adjust this number here. So this is actually $400,000 total if you were to add all these up. The operations is $186, the fuel is $39, and the capital cost is $110,000. That's just for 1 year. That's just a year because we're leasing our vehicles. Obviously, the capital cost carries over to a 3-year lease term, and the management cost is about $65,000 for implementation and oversight.
So what are you asking, Ronnie? Because you
So
have a whole
I'm-
implementation plan behind you.
Here's my implementation schedule. And if we want to get this thing on route by January 18th or in January, we need to get a selection and approval for us to proceed with implementation today. If we don't get it today, we push this out a month, which is completely fine. We would be just pushing out our implementation of service timeframe. It takes about 3 months to implement a change of this magnitude.
How much of abortive costs would we invest in this? I mean, because we can change routes. Let's say maybe there's some tweaks to this, but we went with this material change. Maybe you figure something out on the peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
You're changing some signage and stuff. Are there any other sort of sunk costs? Or is it really that?
No, it's implementation. It's just the time it takes and the efforts it takes to implement it.
But other than that, it's effectively totally reversible.
Right. Yeah. And we've already planned on the signage project, and we're not changing stop locations. We're not putting new stops in. We're serving the same stops, essentially. So, no.
All you're doing is adjusting schedule.
Exactly. In a route. Exactly.
In the future too.
Right. Exactly.
Will you provide copies of the proposals to the public before your next meeting?
So I think what we would do is if the board wants to approve an option today, we would put out a draft route guide for review and probably community input. Just this is what it looks like. This is very conceptual right now. I mean, I had some maps drawn up quickly, and this is just to show you kind of what my thoughts are, or our thoughts are collectively with MV. About how we can provide the services better, and if the board's on board with this, then we can go forward with drafting up an actual change. And I think that's going to be a big difference because you'll see the schedule and you'll see how frequent your services will be and how this will.
And you work backwards from we got a whole new set of money in January.
Yeah.
On the notion that there would be improved service generally.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to figure out how to do that as soon as you can,
exactly,
right? But there's nothing forcing us to that time frame.
So
no.
what do the results of the field testing need to be to make this viable? Is it
So
if it's 2 minutes?
If there's a fatal flaw in terms of like travel times or a path of travel.
But like what's the saving like 2 minutes? Is that because you have something you have?
Oh,
like,
you're saying in terms of estimated time savings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anything more than 3 minutes might be. If it's less than 3 minutes, then I don't know if it'd be worth splitting the routes. However, I still think it resolves the capacity problem.
Okay.
Regardless of the time savings, it solves the capacity issue. And it's happening on all routes.
And the field testing is not happening with passengers? I mean,
basically, the field testing is we send out a bus and like a field safety person or a field monitor, I guess, from MV. MV's people would get on. And they would start doing timing of route and timing of travel. And just to confirm that, yes, we are estimating enough time, and this is how much it will take, and what is the best path of travel back to the BART station. It may be the freeway, it may be Horton, it may be San Pablo, maybe Market, which I don't know if I would want to go all the way to Market, but what is the best way to get from the north to the south? I think the south is kind of already set, but it's that north pattern coming to the south of the BART station.
And that factors in different conditions, for a number of passengers on and off. If someone has a bike, they need it on the front, take it off. They factor all that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We add fluff to the timing of boarding. We have a high volume of actual wheelchair boardings.
Yes. Yeah,
exactly, so
yeah.
we have to consider that too. Well, how we do that is we factor in layover times. So we don't have that factored in each individual scheduled stop, but we have built-in time where it makes sense in the route to kind of allow the driver to get back on schedule in those
Well, they
situations.
do kind of audit all the time. This
Mm-hmm.
is what they do for a living.
Right. Yeah.
well, I, for one, would like to recommend that you take it to the next step,
Mm-hmm.
which would be field testing. I think several questions have come up about small details of a big route change. I asked about that, circle up in North Hollis.
Right.
There's a question about Watergate. So I'd like you to think more about those.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly think doing some field testing and then assembling some schedules would let us think, is this something we want to roll out for bigger sharing?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in the meantime, we can get some, this would be great to have our new residential representatives weigh in on.
Absolutely.
And maybe we can get them here
Mm-hmm.
in a time frame that is inside all this, right?
Right.
Because there's no point in rushing to add new service if lots of people won't feel good about it.
Right.
Well, yeah, can we put a bullet list together of what the benefits are of this and what kind of complaints are getting? I mean, not like a detailed summary, but
Right.
just saying the benefit is it'll be a faster route. We'll get less complaints about overboarding. We'll
Right.
get less whatever. So that way,
Yeah.
if you take it to the next step after your testing is done,
Right.
you can actually tell people this is why
Mhm.
we're actually doing it.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, this bus over here at Bay Street, sometimes it goes by 2 or 3 times because it's full.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
So
there's
that's
clearly
a-
there's a problem
it's
in all the
clear
areas.
problem. So
That's-
I would be hesitant
Yeah.
to delay this too much, just
Right.
because you have an issue right now that's having a problem where I'm assuming you're getting complaints.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, this would be a resolve to
Right.
a customer complaint-driven issue,
Mhm.
if that's the case.
Right.
Well, since you're new, the only reality here is there's some voices that are much louder than others, and so.
I've been to quite a few of the county meetings. I
And-
probably write the same list you do.
And some people who are just new,
Mhm.
brand new to contributing to the system that are gonna have louder voice. So we just wanna
Right.
make sure we're inclusive without slowing it down
Yeah,
unnecessarily.
exactly.
So I would recommend you do those next steps.
Okay.
We're not saying,
We're
yeah,
going
you know, we
through,
like every
yeah.
single detail of this, but
Right.
field testing it, because these benefits are helpful and detriments, and if they're different, we should field test it so we can know what the benefits and
Yeah.
detriments are.
Right.
May I throw something in here? And one of the things that's going on right now is AC Transit is doing their major corridors study. And so there's a series of community meetings. So overall, big picture, one of the things that I see, and I would like to be on this committee for that out there, is that AC Transit, I think, is really failing Emeryville. And part of the reason that they're failing Emeryville is because Emeryville is doing such a great job. It's enabling them to do less, basically. So ultimately, where I'd like to see us go is that they carry more of the load. And I've been attending many AC Transit meetings, talked to many planners, talked to a bunch of different people, and they've kind of put it out there that says, yeah, we're open to doing this, but we need Emeryville as a city, or maybe the ETMA, to say, yes, we want to move forward with this.
Mhm.
So the current thing that's going on, and we're a little late in the game for some of the other route changes that are going on, they're still not casting concrete. They are doing a complete route overall. But the major corridors is one of them that I think there are great opportunities to bring, especially the Transbay bus, into the core of Emeryville. Because I think what's happening right now is a lot of people are taking Emeryville around to get to BART so they can get to San Francisco. I think we can eliminate a lot of the ridership overcrowding by basically giving people better transit service and giving them direct access to the AC Transit Transbay bus, which will allow them to skip all this other stuff and get them directly there. So that's one thing. So in big terms, I think I'd like to see this group engage more with AC Transit, get involved in the route changes that they're doing. The other is AC Transit has what's called the AC Transit Easy Pass, where you can buy bulk transit passes. It's another thing that I'd like to see the ETMA get involved in. There has been some discussion about citywide Easy Pass. I think that provides great opportunity. One of the routes that we looked at, possibly that you put up here, is like, well, how about AC Transit is looking at bringing back the 57, bringing back that to water, or to the marketplace.
Mhm.
What if they extended that out to Watergate and basically give the peninsula the AC Transit service that it deserves? That could possibly eliminate the need for one whole route here.
No turnaround.
And if we could make Easy Pass available to residents, I think there's some options here that we can improve our overall transit by coordinating both routes and Easy Pass.
They stop going out there because of the turnaround at Watergate. The drivers just don't want to go all the way out to that loop because it takes a lot of time.
Well, I, for one, would welcome board members who could help us know what the issues are,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because we can only, it's hard None of us are full-time employees, right?
Right.
So, and I know, I've been at city council where AC Transit has told them all the changes they're making, and I have no idea what our city fathers and mothers are trying to influence or not, right?
And that's part of the problem, they're not, that there's really nobody that's trying to influence things. And it's like, there are opportunities here that wouldn't cost a dime. It's really just an investment of a little bit of time and getting the right people together to say, we need this, and
Right.
here's a gap.
Yeah.
Well, so to try to wrap this up, is it the pleasure of the board to let Ronnie go to that next step and test it and try to turn it into something that then we could see again and decide if we want to put it out for more?
Yeah, I think that the field testing is going to be key. I think
Mhm.
get some data back on that just to actually see if
Yeah.
it is beneficial.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Ronnie? I think that's it for the agenda.
That's it, except for, so we're gonna hold off on the approval of the budget. Is that right? The 2016 budget until the next meeting, so we have more board participation, which I'm fine with. I mean,
Yeah, you're
that's-
fine with that? There's
yeah.
no agreements or anything, or things that need to be executed before November that would
Well,
affect
the
your
only
January
thing that's
1st?
gonna affect this is that you're not approving a budget, but are you approving MB's contract, which is basically included in the budget, the cost increase, so.
Well,
Yeah,
you-
I mean, that's
I
gonna put
really,
you in a
I
tight mode
need you
for
to tell
January
us what our
1st.
termination rates are.
Okay.
Because
I
we
will
have to
come
be
back with that.
mindful, if we don't have the money, we don't want to
Right.
obligate ourselves, so.
All right. So I'm gonna propose that we do meet in November to provide final feedback on the budget. I will bring the information that you've requested back with the MB agreement.
I'm hoping we're going to have visibility about the governance issue from the city
Okay,
then.
yeah,
We should expect.
Yeah, we should expect that.
right. So the next meeting is scheduled for November 19th. I know that's getting close to the holidays. And with our very little board, I'm hoping that we'll have enough participation there that we can take action on these items.
No one here cares about Black Friday and the work involved.
We're only at Black Friday
Or
Central.
what is it, Cyber Monday? I mean,
Yeah,
there's all-
exactly.
There's so many days now.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so we'll bring those two items back. And proceeding, we did vote on the paratransit agreement, and I'll proceed with that. So that concludes all the action items that I had.
So that'll be here at 9?
Yes.
At 9 on the 19th?
At 9 on the 19th.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Meeting adjourned, right?
Adjourned.
Adjourned,
Yes.
yes.